Hi, my name's Trinity Peterson, and I'm an ERP advisor for Striven. So let's talk today about customer management. The first topic we're going to cover is customer setup. So for a customer setup, we're going to cover customer settings, categories you can have for your customers, referral sources that you can set, industries, and custom fields. So let's get started on our journey inside of Striven.
In order to use Striven the way you want to use it, you may need to do some configurations within the settings. To go to your settings, you would go to Company and then Settings. Once in here, you can see that each of the settings pages is separated out depending on what type of entity it is. The one we're most worried about today is customers and vendors, so let's click on that to expand the list. Let's go ahead and look at the general settings for the customers and vendors first, and then we can look at some additional settings pages that may be useful. From here, I can choose some customer default settings, such as what should their default status be? So when a customer is added to the system, should they automatically be added as a prospect or as something else such as active? And also your default customer vendor type. So customers and vendors in Striven are both considered accounts. So when you add a new account to Striven, do you want it to default as a customer or a vendor? You can also choose if within your system duplicate numbers are allowed for the customer and vendor as well. Next, you have some required fields that are set. So if you want to make sure that the referral source is set every single time, for example, you can check this. And to make sure the category is filled in each time, you can check this. This is going to make it these fields need to be filled in before the customer can be saved. Next, we have some defaults that we can set. Our first one is if the customer is a consumer by default. So if you mainly deal with individuals, not corporations or companies, you can set the customer as a consumer by default. So there's not going to be a requirement on the company name, but just the contact name instead. And then you can choose some recipient default settings. So do you want the primary contact to be the person who gets notified for when these actions happen? For example, when an invoice or a credit memo is created, when a payment is received, when a collection notice is sent, when payment notices are sent. As you can see, you can specify which of these notices should the primary contact be set for when a new customer is added to Striven. And then you also have some options for the sales order contact. So if you have on your sales order types, you can select the contact on your sales orders, and you can make sure that that person receives the invoices and credit memos that's related to that sales order, and also the invoice payments that's related to that sales order. Next, on task, you can set who the requested by is, and if you have the requested by set, then you can make sure that they are the one always getting notified for when a task is created, in progress, or done. Now remember, these are defaults you have set in your settings. So setting these is not going to update any existing customers in your system, but instead will update it for any new customers that will be added into your system. So it's important to go through your settings before adding a lot of customers. Next, we have some triggers that we can set up. So this is going to determine when the customer is considered active. So do you want the customer to be active when the customer first approves an order, when a transaction is created, or do you want it to be set as active on the date the order was set to approved? So this is going to do some automation for you, so you don't have to worry about changing that status from prospect to active. This is going to do it based on certain actions. The next section is about reference settings, so you can choose if you want your references to expire, so that way you're not using any old references and only the most up-to-date references. And then also, who should be notified when a new reference is added to the system? I think Brian Kinney needs to be notified, so I'm going to set that here. Notice I can choose multiple if I'd like. Scroll back up to the top, and we have a couple more boxes over here to go through. So we have our contact settings. That's just going to let you determine how you want the contact's birthday to display, if you only want the day and the month, or if you want the year in there as well. And then you have some Striven Partner Portal settings too. Now what you can do with here is, do you want contacts to have access to the portal when you first add them to the system? If so, you want to make sure this box is checked off. Once it's checked off, then you can choose what should that default portal role be. Should it be full access user or any other that have been created? And then next you have your content widgets that you can have displayed on the customer and vendor portal. Clicking on the edit icon will allow you to add content within here that will then be viewed by them when they're on their dashboard in the Striven Partner Portal. Once you've configured all your settings on the Customer Settings page, you want to scroll down and make sure you click Save to make them all take effect. You're going to get a success bar up here at the top to let you know that it's been saved successfully. Now there's some other important configurations that can be done under the Customer Vendor section within the settings. Let's take a look at our categories. Account categories is going to allow you to specify certain categories for customers and vendors to segment them out. As you can see, I have one such as a loyalty program with gold and platinum or silver. I can see silver I think actually belongs under loyalty, so I'm going to click this and drag it to underneath here. This allows me to create a hierarchy. To create a new category, I would simply click here, type, and then click Add. To move it underneath, I just click and drag once more. Custom fields can be very useful to add additional information you're trying to track about the company. As you can see, I can add new sections, so I can have them separated out for a more organized feel. To add a new custom field, I simply click the Add plus here and type in what I want to capture. Then I can choose my field type. There's a lot of field types you can choose from, such as alphanumeric, integer, yes/no fields, date and time, currency, and much more. You can also create custom lists or use existing lists within the system, such as your contact list, customer list, or employee list. I'm going to go ahead and choose integer, since I chose number of previous contracts. I can ask if it should be required or not, or make it an encrypted field. So if it's an encrypted field, only people with permission to view it will be able to. Once I'm ready, go ahead and hit Save and Close, and my field has been added. Moving on our list, let's take a look at our industries. Your industries list is going to allow you to see how many customers are in with each industry, but then you can also create new ones as well. This is going to allow you to specify what industry the customer is in when you're adding the customer into the system. The same can be said for referral sources. I can see how many customers are in each referral source right from this list here, or I can add a new one. And then I can decide if I want it to be visible or not, so they can choose this on lead forms, for example. As you can see, there's a lot you can configure to make this system specific for you.